I am really enjoying watching the videos that you have all chosen from last week. So you could describe and evaluate the speaker's delivery. Some of the the speech videos that you have posted are just amazing, really inspirational, and I've seen a lot of just really moving content, and much of it is really unique as well. Few different announcements. I want to remind you all, I know that discussion boards can be challenging to really stay engaged with, but I just want to remind you to check back at your posts and see if somebody has left you specific feedback on your posts. And also remember to check your comments, your evaluations and critiques that will be located in your comment section under your YouTube videos for your speech. And you'll want to check those before you start preparing for speech two. And that way you can decide kind of out of the comments that people made, like plan if there's something specific that you want to try to improve on or maybe change up a little bit in speech two. Another thing I wanted to bring up is that I am finding email to be inconvenient and just not as easy to access for myself, and I'm sure many of you. And so, with that said, because text messaging seems to be far more convenient and effective, efficient, the whole thing, I am feeling like I want to use the Remind app for class communication. So I've gone ahead and put that app on my phone, and it is my full intention this week to be implementing the Remind app in this class to use for class communication, and individual communication, I believe, is available as well. So look for information on that. I'll probably in an email be sending you a link or something to add. I'm not sure exactly how it works yet, but please do let me know if you have an objection to using this app. Maybe you're not able to on your phone or something like that. So, but that is my intention. I apologize that we're doing this in week 6 because I normally don't like to start new things that aren't planned. But I have a feeling most of you are going to appreciate that adjustment. Last week, I was asked to give a speech in Apple Valley at an open house for a Toastmasters club. Now, they are just beginning to reopen and they're social distancing and masking up and all that. But through the pandemic, of course, enrollment has gone way down. So they were looking for me to speak at their open house. And I wanted to share with you what I spoke about. I chose to speak about communication apprehension. And many of you remember that that is actually a topic that I am doing graduate research and writing on. And obviously, I'm very, very interested in it, in the topic. And I have to say, it just was probably one of the best speeches I ever gave. And I'm thinking that it's because it's so fresh in my mind. And I mean, like, I'm writing on this subject every day, and I'm really passionate about it. Not only that, but it was perfect for this audience. Toastmasters, of course, is a speaking organization. It's a nonprofit organization that's been around for like 80 years, helping people become better speakers and leaders. So for that audience, communication apprehension was a perfect topic. And so getting to kind of the application of our chapter 5 to this discussion about my speech. The general purpose of my speech was to inform. And the specific purpose of my speech was to inform the audience about communication apprehension, what it is, what it does, and what we can do about it. As far as the organization that I pretty much applied to each main point. So the main points again were what it is, what it does, and what we can do about it. I applied physiological as one subpoint, so what our body does, cognitive, our thinking, how our thinking is related to communication apprehension, and then behavioral, how our behavior ties into communication apprehension. So those were my 3 main points, and then the 3 subpoints that I included in each main point. They applied to each main point. And then, of course, the details. I've talked with you about many of those details, the way we think, the way we speak, we can write about the way we communicate, and that those are all affecting our cognitive abilities, the thinking that we do. And then we've, of course, spoken in detail about the physiological parts, and that is the way our body responds. Maybe get sweaty from communication apprehension, maybe your heart is beating out of your chest from communication apprehension, maybe you start shaking. These are all physiological things in communication apprehension. And then the behavioral, I'm always harping on prepare, practice, and then delivery, practice. These are all things that are behaviors that impact our communication apprehension. With the introduction, how I did the introduction, because remember, your job in the introduction, the very first part especially, is just to grab the audience's attention. And we didn't really talk too much about this before, but now that we're moving on to speech 2, and a lot of you got feedback about needing work on your introduction and conclusion, which is totally normal for speech 1. So with the speech introduction, you want to grab attention. And there's different ways you can do this. You can ask the audience a question. You can make a startling statement. You can use a shocking statistic, or you can tell a story. Those are just 4 ways that you can do it. Sometimes people open with a quote, but that gives you, okay, now 5 different ideas for how you can open up your speech introduction. The conclusion, you don't want to end by thanking everybody for listening to you or anything like that. You just want to go ahead and wrap up, kind of revisit all the main parts, kind of summarize it. And then after that, you just want to either make some kind of memorable statement. Maybe that will tie back up to your introduction and kind of connect it all. Or oftentimes people will close with a quote or something like this. But the point is, you really want to have your introduction and conclusion very intentionally planned. And that is just, it's like a finishing touch, and it really makes all the difference in a speech. Getting back to my introduction that I did on my speech with regarding communication apprehension at the Toastmasters open house, I told the story about James McCrowski getting a phone call that his student was just rescued off the top of a 13-story building. And she was just saying, I can't handle giving another speech at that university again. So I opened with that shocking story. Okay. And I went in and it fit in perfectly with my transition and my points and all that. I concluded with a story of my a memory I'll never forget in my first communication, oral communication class that I taught. And I remember a specific student who, when she gave her introduction speech, she couldn't get through maybe 3 sentences and she just broke down crying really hard. And the whole entire uh, class was just silent, and we kind of let her have a moment. I asked her if she wanted to finish her speech, and she did. And she barely, I mean, it was so hard for her, it was painful. And I'll never forget like the support of the class, clapping for her and encouraging her. But fast forward to the end of that class on the very last day. And this is what I'll never forget, because it's like snapshots of the first day and then snapshots of the last day. And on the last day, we played a game. It was a voluntary game. We call it Table Topics. And basically, people get to volunteer and they don't know what question they're going to get asked. And they stand in front of the whole class and answer. And then we vote on like the best speaker, that kind of thing. And when she spoke, first of all, she volunteered. Second of all, when she spoke, she was having a great time. She was enjoying it. She had the whole class laughing and she won first place. And so that is the story that I closed that speech with. And I felt like it made it memorable in my evaluation because I was evaluated. Uh, that's what we do in Toastmasters. The evaluation said the opening and the closing just drew everybody in, and it was super organized. So when you get to the selecting a topic information in chapter 5, remember about this, like this topic that I chose, the audience, the general purpose, the specific purpose, and the central idea is communication apprehension is a major problem. It affects like 20% of people. It's different than public speaking anxiety. Public speaking anxiety is only in one area. Communication apprehension is in all types of communication. So it's much broader. And there's things that we can do to reduce and prevent communication apprehension. So that is the central idea of that speech. I hope that the example that I'm giving you of my speech helps you figure out how to sort out the general purpose, also the general idea, or the central idea of the whole speech in general. And I also hope that by hearing what I selected and kind of knowing me enough a little bit from my videos and our exchange, our few exchanges that we've had, that it might help you to come up with what your speech topics are going to be for speech 2, 3, and 4. I have put in 2 TED Talk videos to kind of get you sort of thinking about ideas a little bit differently. And I hope that you all are either you have formed your support groups or you're forming your support groups this week. And all the directions of everything are in the discussion board week 6. And if you just follow those directions and then of course, the materials and few videos that I've shared with you, I hope that you all have a marvelous week.